Welcome. Hopefully you can hear me. Dave the Honest Audiophile here. Give a thumbs up if you can hear me. Thumbs down if you can't. We'll sort it out. Thank you for all joining. Greatly appreciate you all being here. And hopefully you all had a good Friday. Seems strange to say that. Today seems like Saturday to me. I've been off work today, so did a bunch of other uh, tasks that I had to do. And so today feels like a Saturday instead of a Friday. But thank you for joining this Friday evening. Much appreciated. And if you have questions or anything like that, drop them down into chat and we'll get to them shortly. So hopefully you've been thinking up some questions and we'll have some fun this evening for a little bit. So, how was everybody's Friday? Were you working? Do you have the day off? Do you still have to go to work? Is it already Saturday for you? It might be a few that are ahead of me here in the time zone, but hopefully you've had a good day. I had a successful and accomplishing day, even though I wasn't working. I was doing other things. So awesome. All right, drop your questions in whenever you're ready, and we will get you all taken care of. Again, thumbs up if you can hear me, thumbs down if you can't. So let us know if I need to adjust anything. So hopefully you all are able to hear. All right, thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, Keith. And everybody, welcome to the live stream for today and Friday night. Don't do Fridays too often. Normally do Saturday. So as I was saying earlier, seems like Saturday. So we'll just kind of roll with it. Sounds good to me. Thank you, Hobby. Appreciate it. Glad you're able to swing by. And I like this little microphone that we're using. This is the Chimera Duo. I used it in the last live stream. Seems to work really well. Has nice sound to it. And might go do this more often with this type of setup, just because when you turn your head, you can still hear me. One of the things that people said quite often was when you move your head, your microphone doesn't pick you up as well, and makes it hard for some to hear. Here's the resolution, and so it works. So I'm glad that Antolon Audio sent this over. We'll do a review of it at some time. I don't know if it'll be a written review or a video review, but we will get to it at some point. So, any questions? Any comments? Any suggestions? The box is open for you. The suggestion box is open, so to speak. So, let's. What do you all want to chat about tonight? Anything exciting? I know that this is kind of a different time, and usually Fridays are kind of the chill and relax mode. So if we're in that kind of mood, awesome. Hey, my wife is watching. Thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. Does that mic make the IEM feel like it's pulling out of the ear at all? Not really. They feel the same. They kind of snug in really well. They have memory wire instead of just a regular ear hook. So it's pretty secure. And this part right here is really light. It's connected to the actual cable itself. So it's not detachable as far as the microphone. But as far as the cable and the microphone itself, they're combined together in one piece. And so it just feels like a regular old cable. Let's see. Did you test out the new Afu Performer 8? No, I haven't gotten one in for review yet, and would like to. Hopefully, I can get one at some point. So that is a The name is it's actually Aful. It's AFUL. It's pronounced Afu if you actually look up how to pronounce it. I I know the meme is awful, but it's not actually how it's pronounced. They've actually been quite successful. Quite a few people like them. So the P5 was a good performer. The P5 for the first Afu product that I've heard, they actually sounded pretty good, and I do enjoy them. So good question so far. As far as the getting back to the Kimura, it is a little bit. The shell design is what makes it so it doesn't fit me quite as well. It's got a really big wing on it, and so it kind of pushes it that way. But they both kind of sag. It's not the microphone pulling on it. It's not the most comfortable IEM shell design for my ear, but it'll probably fit most. All right, let's see here. Got a question. Any other questions? I haven't seen anything come through here in them for a moment. Nice and quiet crowd tonight, it seems like. Okay. Yeah, that's good about the name. That would be a little odd of a name. And I know that, the memes were out there and stuff like that, but it does mean, I can't remember exactly what it means, but it means something different in the native tongue. So, any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion points, anything? I'm open to answer anything within reason, of course. It can even be a personal question. I'll try to answer that. All right. So, Dave, what is your sound preference for an IEM? My sound preference is actually the same for IEMs, headphones, and speakers, and that is what I would consider a neutral and natural sound. Very even, very balanced, cohesive, with proper natural tone and timbre. I don't like a lot of elevations in either. I prefer it to be a very natural and neutral sound signature. Hopefully that makes sense. Excuse me, I need a drink here. All right, so if you enjoy the live stream, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I understand if you have to give a thumbs down. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. That way you'll know when the next live stream's available or video is uploaded. Anyways, all right, enough of that. Thank you, JT. Appreciate that. Are REMs matching sound quality with regular headphones at the same price point in your experience? So let's say a $150 headphone, does it sound the same as a $150 IEM? Kind of depends. Same thing would go for $1,000, $2,000 type stuff. They're different presentations, so you really can't compare it that way. But as far as like the overall sound quality and value for the price point, yeah, I would say you're probably in that same ballpark. You just have to look at it in a different way as far as the presentation goes. Obviously headphones are going to sound a little bit bigger. They're also going to have a little bit more depth and a little wider of soundstage, whether it even be closed back or open back. So they do have a different presentation. Probably you're going to have a little bit more better quality, detail and resolution in a lot of cases. Excuse me. But as far as the price point, yeah, they're probably similar in value, not in performance, if that makes sense. Keith, you're welcome. Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually, now that I think about it, because there's a lot of preferences. Like some reviewers prefer IEM, some prefer headphones, some prefer speakers, some like a mixture of both. I'm kind of that way, and you really can't take an IEM and compare it. Hey, Carmine, you can't really compare it to a speaker because they are a different presentation, and they do things totally differently. But you can look at it as far as value wise. It's kind of an interesting thought, and I've never really thought about it too much until you just asked that question. So thank you for making my brain think a little bit here. Have I heard the IE 200 yet? No, not really. Have not heard that. Would like an opportunity though. IE 600 is on sale for 500. That's a must get at the price point if you can afford it. Interesting. Haven't heard the IE 600 either. 500. That's what, $100 off, 150 off, something like that. Bruno said he bought a Ufu P8 yesterday, so I'm kind of thinking it's overkill, but at that discount. Cool. I'm glad you got a discount. Haven't heard of P8 yet. Very curious about it. $200 off IE 600. Okay, it's not bad. But haven't heard it, so I don't know. It is a little bit of an asking price, at that price tag, $700. When you start getting in that $500 to $1,000 price point, the game kind of changes with IEMs. So a little tougher of a sale at times. It's kind of a spot where I haven't done a whole lot of reviewing. Actually, those are kind of IEMs that are a little bit hard to get in for review as often. I hope, it'd be nice if Sennheiser could provide some IE 200s, 300s, 400s, all of those. Haven't been able to get an in route with them yet. Not that I haven't asked, but maybe one day, a vendor or Sennheiser direct. Thank you for everybody swinging by, and we might be a small crowd, but we have good good communication and good topics here. So thank you very much. Really do appreciate that one question about IEMs and headphones and speakers and price points and stuff. That's a question that I haven't thought of before. Speaking of, oh, here we go. Right now I've got satisfying sound with my ZMF Verite closed and Bear T5 Gen 3s for mobile, so not too many questions unless you have experience with higher end OTL amps for the ZMF. Not really. I don't have a whole lot of experience with them. Most of the OTLs I've heard have been at audio shows, and I really couldn't tell you what the model names were, so not really much of a amplifier tube amp source, unfortunately. Let's see here. Both the P5 and the P8, this is from Apollo Moon Landings. Both the P5 and the P8 have a bit of a weird tilt to the upper mid-range. It's easy to correct. Been enjoying my P5s. Yeah, the P5s do have a little bit of an elevation. To some ears, it may seem a little shouty or a little bit too direct. So yeah, I can understand that. You probably easily could tame that down, or change tips might even help. And also sometimes sources can kind of help that type of thing. That's a good point. That gets overlooked at times. Big Sugar says no. So roughly, where about would your law of diminishing returns kick in? Realistically, law of diminishing returns kicks in with any gear at no matter what the price point is. But you really start noticing it when in IEMs, when you start getting past $100 price point and you start seeing it by a couple $100 increments, it gets a little bit smaller and smaller. But then you start getting different things added in. So it's kind of like, how do you weigh it? And we all have different values of what we consider budget and what we consider to be a good deal or a bad deal. So it's different for everybody. But I would say overall, every piece of gear has that, no matter the price tag. But realistically, with IEMs, it's around $100. With headphones, it's probably around 250-ish, 200, 250. Speakers, that's a really tough call because their budget seems to be bigger. They're low end versus mid-fi, hi-fi. So, and I'm not much of a speaker person. I don't have a lot of experience there, so I'm not going to break that one down. That would be a question for Zero Fidelity, Sean over at Zero Fidelity. All right, let's see here. My all-time favorite from Bruno, he says, is a T2, very good IEM. Got the IE200 recently and love it. They are similar in a way. T2 is sharper and clearer, but that IE200 is winning me over. Whoops, it flipped on me. Over time. Understandable. When you start getting into different price points of IEMs, even gear, headphones, and all that, it becomes, differences are very, very, small, but they'll be distinct. You'll be able to pull out certain things of each gear, and then that's how you kind of go, I like that one a little bit better. This one does things a little bit better. And everything else may be very similar, but there might be one thing that one of them does better than the other, and that kind of seals the deal for you. So I understand totally where you're coming from there. Canal Lucas, thank you. I will try. Christopher, it's late night for most. Just happy to be able to listen and learn. Hey, thank you, Christopher, for swinging by. Much appreciated. Let's see, Ahmad. How you compare the AD90D to, I'm sorry, the A90D to sub $300 amps. So the topping A90 discrete to sub $300 amps. Okay, so the discrete is going to have better details and resolution over most $300 amps and below. It has more power. But the thing about the A90 discrete is it's a little bit on the warm side, and it lacks a little bit of energy. It doesn't quite have naturalism, in my opinion. It's a little bit on the more dull side of things, even though it's a little bit warm. Not as warm as some others, but to me, the A90 discrete just lacks this connection to the music for me. Does details and resolution good and all of that. It just misses a little bit. It's the best topping amp that I've heard, but it's not something that beats out others that I have. But for the most part, the majority of 300 ones, it will be better. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's see. Have you already tried the Studio 4? Yes, actually, it's over there right now. That will be reviewed next week. So the Softier Studio 4 review comes out next week. When I spend twice the money and I notice very little difference. Yeah, unfortunately, that does happen. And that's where it comes down to the matter of, are those differences that you hear worth the extra money? Or was it kind of a disappointment because it didn't really outshine what you had before? And unfortunately, that happens quite a bit in audio. What do you mean when you say an IEM is engaging? Is it another way of saying natural? No, not completely. Natural is the tonality, It's the ability to sound accurate and true to lifelikeness. So, does an instrument sound realistic when you're listening? That's natural. Engaging means that it connects you with the music. It gives you an emotional connection. It puts a smile on your face. It gets your toes tapping. You snap your fingers. You do air drums, air guitars, that type of thing. Some music just sounds boring. It'll come across in some things that it's just not engaging. It has the good tonality and it has all of that. It just doesn't connect. And that's what I'm talking about when I say engaging. Let's see here. Thank you, Marker 12. Greatly appreciate the gift. Much appreciated. All right, lots of questions now. Let's see here. If I missed your question and I pass it up after a little bit, just re-ask it and I'll get to it. Let's see. How are you enjoying the Mytek THX AAA HPA? Love it. That review's coming out very soon too, probably next week. So be looking forward to that. That thing is incredible and dual thumbs up. I don't want to spoil the review though. Let's see. JT's excited about the Mytek. Let's see. JDM UK. I don't understand the love of Grotto. For years I kept moving up their range thinking this would be the one. They do one thing okay and darn everything else. Well, you know what? Grotto is a unique sound signature and you either love them or hate them. And unfortunately for me, I'm kind of in the I love certain aspects, but I don't really love the overall. So I can understand where you're going. And it never really improves from product to product. There's only been a couple that I've truly said, I might be able to own one of these one day. And it was, I think it was the Grotto RS2. And there was another one of the really expensive ones. I was kind of like, I don't mind this. But all the other ones are kind of like, I don't hate it, but I would never own one. Let's see, Keith. For me, it took a lot of work to be satisfied from a monitor sub setup to cans, but this was when the Sennheiser 600s and the Grotto RS1s were the end of the line, except for R10s and Orpheus. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Totally, absolutely makes sense. And when 5-10 years ago, you didn't have near as many options, and there was a lot more mainstream names that were popular: AKG, Sennheiser, Hi-Fi-Man, Audeze, Barodynamic. I'm trying to think of some others here that were very much in the forefront. Everybody had those, and you didn't have the boutique stuff as much. It wasn't quite as popular. And then when all these other boutique stuff came in, it kind of changed the game. And now your options are almost endless, and you have a lot more ability to kind of find, okay, this is my niche. This is what I really like to listen to. And these manufacturers do this better. And so you can kind of, be drawn that way. So I understand where you're going. It does take a lot of time and effort. And the key thing that I can point everybody to is understand what you want. Learn what you want before you go and chase things. Have your baseline and your benchmark of what you desire to hear. Do you want a neutral and natural sound, or do you want a really bassy sound, or do you really like treble? Do you like sparkle and energy? Do you like the V-shape sound? That type of thing. Really understand what you're seeking in every production. That way, when you hear it, you know it. That's key. If you don't really have a true benchmark and baseline of where you want to end up, you're going to be chasing your tail all over the place and spending lots and lots of money. That's just what I've learned. Let's see. Are you planning to do a personal best headphone and IEM ranking list? I already got one. It's in every video description. I'll drop a link right here. Give me one moment. copy the link. Go back over here. And boom. There you go. Google Docs. Down in the description, every single video has this. And make sure to read the ranking grade tab, because I do things totally different than anybody else. So it only makes sense if you read the ranking grade first. All right, let's see what's next. Let's see, Keith said I had to put bare pads on the grottos to use a Carry 300 to enjoy them. Interesting. I always change pads on grotto as well. Usually I stuck with grotto pads. I went with a bigger pad. Never tried any third-party pads. That might be interesting. I'd have to try that if I ever got grottos in. Let's see. Carmine, speakers present stage and imaging, but you need the room. I am spoil you with an intimate bass slam and sparkle, and then when you go to headphones, it can be a letdown. Depends on the gear for sure. Yes, definitely speakers are different with staging, depth, layering, that sort of thing, and room, and like your setting in the room, whether you have curtains or concrete walls, wood, carpet, things like that, all make a difference when it comes to the room and how it presents. 10 people could have different rooms, use the same speakers and all the same gear, and they all could say a different opinion of something because of the way that the room is set up, whether they have room treatments or not. So makes a big, huge difference with speakers. IEMs for sure don't have the expansive soundstage like a speaker, neither do headphones. Some can get somewhat close in imagination, still isn't at especially higher speakers. It's not even remotely close. Where IEMs come into play really well, though, especially real quality ones, is more in their details and in their resolution and their abilities to portray that aspect of it, which is why a lot of people use them for monitoring. And then headphones, you can get one or the other or a mixture of all of that. So some headphones can really have nice, big, wide sound stages and can be reminiscently close to speakers, but not quite. You know, like you're thinking electrostats can be that way. Headphones normally have really good details and resolution. And, you know, it kind of depends. There's different things that each one does better, and none of them are perfect, but some of them come really close. Speakers, though, definitely are the closest that you can get to an actual natural soundstage. Very good point. Let's see here. Rob Hawk, thank you very much for the gift. Much appreciated. Chi-Fi stuff seems to be treble focused, very unnatural, makes bears seem warm. Not all Chi-Fi is that way. And I actually don't really like the term Chi-Fi. I don't know, there's just something about it just kind of bothers me. But anyways, not all of it is focused that way. I do think that some of it can be, and it depends on what type of music they're featuring when they're doing their builds and what they play it back on to test it. So some of that music plays better with a more treble present type of presentation. So I get that. Let's see, Rob. Sometimes connections to the music are physical, like an RCA connection. Sure, you can feel it. RCA connection, not sure exactly what you mean by that. But yes, you definitely, especially with speakers, you can really feel it. Now, sometimes with headphones or IEMs, you can kind of get a little buzzing in your ear, you know, like a little type of tingle type of thing. Sure, I get that. And that is a little bit of an emotional connection. You feel the thump. Sometimes you can really get the air pressing on base of your tracks, things like that. I can kind of understand where you're going. Don't get the RCA connection thing, though. Could you clarify that? Let's see. Marker 12 said, I bought the 10 Hi-Fi T2s after watching your review. Thank you. Great, you're welcome. Love them. What might you suggest as the next step up? Kind of depends on what the budget is. T2s are a very good little benchmark and a good introduction. If someone is curious about what hi-fi, what audiophile sound is as an introduction, $50 tin hi-fi T2 is an excellent IEM for a very neutral and natural sound. Depending on your budget, you could go tin hi-fi P1 Max. You could also go Massdrop Kato. You could go JQ4U Pro, the Zen's Mangard T2. You have the Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite, and all kinds of others. But those will be some starter points there. Okay, let's see here. I'm glad that you enjoy those. Awesome little IEM. My favorite sub $1,000 headphone right now. My favorite $1,000 headphone or less. There's a couple. Can I mention a couple? Or does it have to be one? Closed back, Audeze LCD2 closed. Open back. Well, you could go Hi-Fi Man Ananda. You could go Sennheiser HD 8XX, the drop version. You can get that for under $1,000. Another close back, you can go Austrian Audio HiX 60. What else I got behind me? You might be able to get a Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth. Whoops, didn't mean to kick the camera there. When they're on sale. Trying to think what else is under $1,000. I think it pretty much covers it. All right, let's see here. Have I tried the Massdrop Blessing 3? No, I have been trying to get one in forever. Sadly, they are being delayed for some reason. I just can't get one in at the moment. I'm on the list, so hopefully one day they'll show up. Let's see what else we got here. What source do you use to listen to music? Do you use a PC? I do. I use a laptop, not a PC. I use an MSI Creator. So laptop USB going into my various DACs. My main source for DAC and amp are the Mytek Liberty DAC 2 and the Liberty HPA, THX AAA HPA headphone amp. I also have a few others lingering around. And then portable wise, I just use my phone or a Hibby R5 Gen 2 and a Sony NW-WM1A. Let's see. Carmine, I watched a video on the new Mytek, the Brooklyn. It's an awesome DAC streamer. It looks very nice. Yeah. If I was more into streaming, like if I had more setups around, I would look at the Brooklyn. I think that would be my next step up. But since I don't really do any streaming, I don't see a reason to take that next leap yet. If I got one in for a review and it just totally blew away my Mytek, I might say, you know what, I don't need to use the streamer part and I'll just pay the money and get to Brooklyn. I might do that, but I have to hear it first to really do it. I totally understand, though, that people love it. And I heard the original or the last version is excellent. So, but it's a little pricey. So if you have one and you want to loan it to me for a review, send it over. All right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think that, the Easterners that design IEMs and some headphones, the music that they listen to and their preference leans that way anyways. And it's kind of, they also like to have the presentation of a lot of a false sounding big stage and lots of details and what they consider details and resolution, but it's unnaturally presenting it, and it's not really a neutral presentation with all that elevation. So it kind of throws things off at times, but with their music, it might pair up well, but I don't really listen to that style of music. Let's see here. Big Sugar, natural. How are the Carpenters and how are synths supposed to be judged as natural? Well, they're not. They're electronic. There's a difference between a synthesized sound and a natural sound. When I say natural, I'm talking about acoustical instruments and natural overall presentation and voices. Now, I understand things are processed through microphones and things like that, but there is a difference between an electronic or a synthesized or a digitized instrument versus an acoustical instrument. And if something plays acoustical instruments and vocals properly and accurately, it can play anything to sound proper and accurate, in my opinion. So I always start with acoustical and natural. Yeah, so like Escaping from New York, that soundtrack is very digital and it's very synthesized. It sounds great, sounds fantastic, it's fun, it's an engagement, it's a very good soundtrack, but it's not natural instruments. So there's a difference between how it presents. And when you're doing a review, you have to consider that. Is that instrument a natural acoustical instrument, or is it a synthesized? Is it a digitized? Is it a processed instrument? Okay, let's see here. What's your favorite IEM under 500? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go to my ranking file here and go to IEMs. I think I get asked this quite often, but I can never remember it. So we will sort it. And let's see here. Under 500. We have the right around $500. I'm going to call it a little close. I really like the Zen's Mangard top. Moondrop Variations is in there too, but they're different presentations. Variations neutral, kind of a dull sounding, a little bit boring, whereas the top has a little bit more excitement, a little bit more flair. Totally different presentations, but both of them are very excellent. Another one that would fit right up there along with those two would be the JQ4U Pro. You also have the Thea Audio Elixir and Moondrop Kato, kind of depending on the price points. But I would stick with the top, probably the Variations, if you want to be right at the tippy top of 500. But there's a lot more. Go ahead and check out my tier list for that. All right, let's see here. Ahmad, you got the A90 discrete for $200. It's not a bad deal. Again, it's a very good amplifier. It just didn't really jive with me. But if you enjoy it and you pair it with something that you really find it good, awesome. Glad for you. We all like different things. We all hear things differently. No problem there. I'm not saying it's a bad amplifier because it's not a bad amplifier. It's a good amplifier. Just isn't my preference. Let's see. Lori, definitely the room for speakers, but the equipment that drives them also makes a difference. Oh, absolutely. Let's see. Lori's heard $40,000 speakers I wouldn't allow in my home. Totally understand that. Went to some audio shows, and I was like, how does this setup cost this much? And it doesn't really sound worth it. Now I understand might be the room that's being presented in. Totally understand that. So I get that. But yes, gear, room treatments, room placements, all that kind of stuff matters. And synergy does exist. And not only is that, but it's also what music you're listening to, things like that. So absolutely. Have I heard the HE1000 SE version 2? Have not. That I recall. If I did, it was at an audio show. But I'm sorry, so many things at audio shows, I can't keep track of everything. I know I haven't had one in my house to review. Let's see, Meze 109 Pros for under $1,000. Yeah, that would be another one you could toss in there. Thank you, JT, for mentioning that. Aeon Noirs for under 1,000. That would be another one. Haven't heard the Noir, but I have heard the two. Very, very good headphone. That would be another one. That would be a good suggestion under $1,000. Let's see. Yeah, Brooklyn is more for speakers than for actually using for headphones and IEMs. Yeah, absolutely, and that's the reason. It's more of a streamer. It's more of a set, an overall setup. It can be used with a headphone amp and things like that, but it is mostly for speakers. Totally. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million. Yes, natural means it sounds like real life. Absolutely, and it's very simple to listen to an acoustical instrument in real life, a piano, a guitar, clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, trombone, bassoon, drums, and then listen to it with your gear, whether it be speakers, headphones, IEMs, and go, does that sound like what I heard in real life or not? Let's see. Um, Christy Harris likes both the 109 Pro and the Aeon Opens. Awesome. Oh, yeah, and a close. Awesome. Let's see. Carmine, I run the Wim Pro, feeding my topping E50 DAC, feeding an X Duo 604 onto the Sennheiser 650s. I stream Amazon Music, and it's opened up a massive world of new music and old favorites. I recommend it. Awesome. Glad that you have a setup that you enjoy. 650s are a very good headphone. I prefer the 600, but 650s are right there. They're very, very close. Again, it comes down to preference between those two. All right, let's see here. Zensmaker Top, Christy says, was an amazing recommendation. It's on your top 3 IAMs. Awesome. Yeah, I love the Top. Thing's amazing. It does so many things well, and listen to it all the time. All right, let's see here. Crediting Karma. Speakers get crazy. Absolutely. Went from a pair of LS50s to Crazy Land after owning the Abyss and chasing that sound. It's all about matching and setups. Absolutely. With speakers, there's so many other things that you do than headphones and IEMs. Now, headphones and IEMs are synergy. You do have DACs and amps and all that kind of stuff. But with speakers, so many little things can make a difference. And that's where you really can notice differences when it comes to like cables and changes in power supplies and all kinds of stuff. And I haven't had the pleasure of hearing all those differences, but I know several people that have told me, yeah, I've heard that, and that's real. I didn't believe it before, but we made this change, and wow, that happened. Was it something I liked or not liked? That kind of depended. But there is no, if you have really quality speaker setup, I guess those differences are heard. Let's see. Mike says, I'm not supposed to wear IEMs, but I need to wear them in the hot tub late at night so I don't annoy my neighbors with speakers. Any recommendations on waterproof resistant IEMs? Don't recommend it. Probably the closest thing you would get is a true wireless. Anything wired, you're going to have problems. So I would look at true wireless. Some of those are kind of splash proof. Kind of like IPX60, whatever those type of ratings are. That's probably the route I would go. But I tend not to take electronics near water. Let's see. If you're looking for the ultimate headphones and speakers, try some MSB DACs. The discreet is good, but the Premier is even better. They make great headphones and speaker amps too. MSB. All right, I will check them out. See if we can get one in for review. I have no idea how expensive these things are. All right, let's see. Have I ever tried the Edifier Stax S3? Have not. Very interesting headphone. Very curious about it. If I can get one in for review, I would definitely review it. You can give it a listen. I know it's wireless, but I'd give it a try. Let's see. Apollo Moon Landing. I received the Kiwi Ears Quartet yesterday. I had only a fairly quick chance to listen to them. They sounded rather nice. Will you be reviewing them? Yes, I will. Do have one in for review, and try to get to that fairly soon. Very interesting IEM for sure. Is it an improvement over the cadenza? Maybe. We'll have to wait. Let's see. Ahmad, I think we have similar taste in audio. I didn't like the A90. If you didn't like the A90D, I think me neither. Well, hopefully it's doable, at least for the price tag that you paid, and hopefully maybe you can find synergy that I wasn't able to find. Curious to see what your thoughts are on it. Let's see here. Credit and Karma. With speakers, you can hear the differences in DACs more clearly. For me, the biggest cable improvement is in power cables, and then speaker cables and interconnects. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I heard was that you hear the differences in DACs. You can also hear it in like your preamp and your amplifier as far as their output stages, and then you can also hear it in changing of the power supply, the power cable, and then the other stuff is very minimal. But those other ones are the bigger changes. But you have to have a really good resolving type of set. You can't just have some little lower end type of a setup that isn't very resolving. All right, so the Edifier Stacks S3 are wireless. You can use them wired and connect to a DAP or amp DAC. Cool. Okay. Good to know. Let's see. MSB discrete DAC lists for 12.5K and the Premier for 27.5K. The reference one is 54K, and the Select 2 is around 115K. The last two are way out of your price range. Yeah, I think all of those are out of mine. Did I ever mention that I have Patreon and YouTube memberships? Go ahead and join those, and let's get this fund started to bring one of those in for review. Let's see. Carmine, you and yours have a great weekend. I've got a match to shoot tomorrow. Oh, awesome. Well, good luck at your shoot. Hope it goes well. And so I'm gearing up. And yes, always protect your hearing. Everyone have a great weekend. Thank you for swinging by, Carmine. You have yourself a great evening. And have fun at your shoot. All right, so let's see here. Apollo Moon Landing. The cadenza is my favorite of all the latest crop of budget IEMs. The Asla Sedna earfit lights improve the details. They definitely do. Those tips really alter the cadenza a lot. With the stock tips that they provide, it has a big bass and booming. It kind of overpowers everything. All right, so this is a good question here. Ahmad asked, do you think IEMs need to be run balanced? It kind of depends on the IEM, and it also kind of depends on your source. So I do find that if you have a dongle, most of them don't quite have the power to really bring out the potential of the planar IEMs. A lot of the planar ones are a little bit harder to drive. So I find that those either sound better on a desktop setup with an amp, not something super powerful, but more powerful than a dongle, or running them with a balanced dongle. That kind of brings things up. But overall, most IEMs don't need to be run balanced. Most of them are very sensitive, very easy to power, and also can get dictated and altered by too much power. It'll change things up in the way that they present. So you can actually overpower IEMs very, very easily, and it'll alter the sound of them. So no, I don't think IEMs need to be run balanced, except for very few of them, which are the planar ones, and they sound better. Just run them on a desktop or something with a little bit more power. All right, so no IEMs have to have a certain type of driver. You know what? To me, it doesn't matter if we're talking IEMs, headphones, or speakers. The driver type really doesn't matter. It's how it's implemented and how it's tuned. If it sounds proper and sounds neutral and natural, then it's a good sounding product. doesn't matter how they get to that sound. It doesn't matter if they have 500 drivers on each side. And it doesn't matter if they have one of every single type of driver and every single little variant of those type of drivers in it. It's how it's tuned and how it's implemented that makes the gear. The argument that a single DD doesn't sound good compared to hybrids or compared to planars or compared to whatever, I think it's bogus, because there are some really expensive single DD IEMs that sound really good. And then there are some expensive ones that don't. And then you have a lot of 2, 3, 4, whatever. And so it's about the tuning and the implementation of the components, not necessarily the actual driver itself. Now, do some drivers types have certain tendencies? Yes. But guess what? You can correct that in the tuning and also in the actual implementation of the component. All right, let's see here. Thoughts on the HiFiMan HE1000 going from $3,500 down to $1,999? Worth it if you've heard it. The only one that I remember hearing is the original. I haven't, as much as I recall, I haven't heard the new variant. And it's been a while since I heard it. But what I heard, I loved. Was it pricey? Yes. At $1,900, you're getting into the price range of the Aria Stealth. Now, they're a little bit different presentation, and the HE1000 may be slightly better detailed and resolving than the Aria Stealth, but is that little bit extra worth it? I don't know, because I haven't heard them side by side. Aria Stealth is a fantastic headphone, especially for its price point. So it's pretty hard to beat. The HE1000 may do it, but I haven't heard them enough in comparison to answer that question. But $2,000 isn't a bad price, considering that's $1,500 off the original price tag. So definitely something to consider for sure. Will I review the AFU Performer 5? Lavia, if one's provided, yes. I haven't received any offers for one yet, so we'll see. Yes, Ty, that's definitely true. People keep a misconception of certain stereotypes about driver types, and I haven't really, as I've reviewed it, I don't really consider what the driver type is. I listen to the device, and the only time that the driver type comes into play is when I'm doing my comparison, just to keep it kind of the same and fair in the comparison as far as that goes. Price point and driver types are kind of where I compare things at. It doesn't matter to me if it has how many drivers. As I said, it's about what it sounds like. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. What mic IEM are you wearing, and do you recommend it? Yes, absolutely. This is the Antlion Audio Chimera Duo, and I like the microphone. I do wish that it had a detachable mic instead of it being attached, and that it wasn't connected with MMCX. I wish it was connected with 2-pin. But other than that, yeah, it's very good. I'll do a review of it. Shells are slightly uncomfortable for me. Not terrible, but we'll talk more about that when we do a review. But yeah, it's not bad. Let's see. Aria is now priced at $1,000. Is that the Aria Stealth or the original Aria? Curious about that. $1,000 for an Aria Stealth is that's craziness. HE1000 V2 is $1,400. HE1000 SE is $1,900. Okay. Yeah, so I'd probably take the SE over the V2, HE1000 V2. But again, I haven't heard those since like an audio show, so it's been several years. So Let's see. Aria Organic is coming. Yeah, I saw that. That thing looks beautiful. um, Hope to get one in for review. Curious to see if it alters the sound, how much compared to the Stealth, whether or not the wood kind of comes through. Um, that would be awesome to hear. But it definitely takes away the black look that Hi-Fi Man has kind of gotten it the mold of, and puts you into the more elite side of Hi-Fi Man with that organic type of look. So it's kind of cool. Audevana also looks pretty cool. Would like to hear that. I know it's got mixed reviews, but I'd still be curious. Ty, I understand that. Thanks for answering. But sadly, it's time to go. Good night, everyone. Almost 3 a.m. Have a nice weekend. Yeah, same to you. 3 a.m. I totally understand. I'd probably be in bed too. Um, so thank you for swinging by. Much appreciated. Oh, so Mike asks, how good do your ears have to be to tell the difference between a $12,000 DAC and a more reasonable price DAC? Let's say $1,500 DAC like my MyTech. My ears can't really tell the difference between Spotify and Tidal streaming services. Okay, fair enough. Differences between streaming services is tough. It's very subtle and it does depend on your gear. Um, but it's minuscule differences, very subtle, if you want to use that word in a more broader term. They are very, very similar in price. So I get that. Or similar in presentations. I did a video on it explaining it, but it's not like huge difference. As far as DAX, when you're up in that elite price tag versus more average price tags, budget friendlier price tags, depending on what gear you have it paired with, it'll be pretty noticeable. You will notice a more cleanness, a more accurate, more pinpoint and precise type of presentation, and it'll be pretty noticeable. Um, but your ears don't have to be anything magical to hear that. You should be able to hear the difference if it's a good setup. Lori, in my opinion, you sound so much better with this microphone. We used to lose you when you turned your head with the fixed mic. Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. I listen back to the live streams, and this one does seem to, I wobble a lot. I move around. I'm antsy. So yeah, I think this is a good fit using something like this. All-time Clint Eastwood Western. That would have to be The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and its other ones in that family of just love that series of movies. Next favorite would probably be Unforgiven or Forgiven, whichever. Yeah, Unforgiven. Let's see. See the converted Ananda, yeah, the Ananda Stealth and the organic Aria to nano diaphragms. So we will see how they end up doing. Be interesting. When they converted the Aria to Aria Stealth, it was a significant difference and an improvement. So I'm sure that the Ananda is an improvement as well. And the Ananda is a good headphone to begin with. All right, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, the difference is as easy to hear with change of DACs. Absolutely. I think that when you get into those higher price points versus the lower end stuff, you can really hear the difference. It's when you're kind of in the same ballpark of prices, things are harder to tell differences and it becomes a little bit more subtle. But when it's going from one price point to a significant step up, that's when you really hear the difference. It's kind of like driving a Honda Civic and then driving a Chevy Corvette. You're like, whoa, difference. Let's see here. Apollo says that this is the best on-ear microphone that he has ever heard. Well, that's good to know. When I do the review of it, I'm going to try to include a couple other microphones of this style and get it into the video. Hopefully, I can do this. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of trying to see how I can incorporate it, but that way you all can hear the differences of the microphones and make a decision for yourself. Let's see. If you had a great DAC amp combo, would you want another DAC or another amp for refreshing your listening session? Okay, so I have the Mytek Liberty DAC 2 and also the Mytek Liberty THX AAA HPA. That's my reference sound. If I wanted an ulterior sound, something alternative, something a little different, I would want a DAC and an amp. And then I can compare both. I can compare the DAC to both amps. With both amps, I compare the amps with, each DAC, that type of thing. And hear the differences. And I actually do have that behind me. Let's see. Will you be reviewing the Topping A70 Pro? 17 watts of power. That thing looks crazy. If one's sent over, I might. Kind of depends if one's provided. Opos probably will have one that they could send over to me. Yeah, this is the Antlion. Let's see. Credit Karma. A good rule of thumb when it comes to speakers and associated gear, you need to double the price to get a significant change. Interesting. Kind of makes sense considering if you're in the lo-fi side of things, and you want a significant step up, you kind of want to go up in price. I can understand that. Okay, so what's the deal with the giant light bulb in a metal cage? So, actually is like a lantern. And it's just something that I picked up one time. I don't even know if the battery works on it anymore. Well, kind of. The bulb is really dim. Can barely see it. But it does work. I've just had this thing forever. So there you go. It's just one of those gadgets that you stick in an office. Let's see. That's a rat. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've probably had that since we moved here at least. So it's blue, goes with the office. All right. Any other questions? Did I miss anybody's questions or comments? If I missed yours, retype it and I'll gladly re-answer it. Yes. Going through your ranking list, I noticed you don't have any Sennheiser IEMs on there. Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't gotten any in for review. So hopefully I can get some in and get some rankings on them. Yeah, Lori says the efficiency of speakers plays a huge role as well. Absolutely. Speakers seem to be a little bit more sensitive to differences in amplifiers than some headphones and IEMs. What turned out to be the worst audio purchase that you ever made? There was a couple. One of the most disappointing was the Philips X2 HR. That headphone was a huge disappointment. And then there was another one which was like a Grotto knockoff. I don't remember the name of that company. Bass Audio. Those were probably my two most frustrating and annoyed worst purchases that I've ever made. Let's see. RoboCop or Conan? Old RoboCop and old Conan, or the new ones? The originals, I would go RoboCop. The newer one, I'd probably go Conan. The newer Conan movie's better than the new RoboCop movie. When I say new, they're like 10 years old. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Basil Prodoris, RoboCop or Conan. You're talking about the soundtrack. You know what? Conan's got a really good soundtrack. But RoboCop does too. I'd probably go with Conan though on that. Sorry, I misread your question. Movie wise, though, it sticks. All right, let's see. All of us should contact manufacturers to have them send stuff to Dave for a review. Hey, I'd appreciate that. Um, let's see. And Andre, when is the MyTech HPA coming? Interesting to hear your findings compared to mine. The only real issue I found with it is significant hiss with IEMs. Now, that's interesting. So HPA, that review should come out next week. The hiss with IEMs is interesting because I actually don't have that. Using the single-ended 3.5 and then changing the gain all the way down to low gain like it does automatically. Interesting. Do you like the MyTech HPA better than the GSX Mini? You really want me to spoil my review. They're different presentations, and I'll leave it at that. And the answer will be in the video. Another DAC amp combo that you want to own besides your MyTech. It's a good question. I would probably go with Chord, either a Hugo 2 or a TT2. And then amplifier would be probably a benchmark HBA4. Or could just go with the Dave. Let's see. Lori asks, do you sell what you don't keep? Your setup doesn't look like Zeo, so I'm wondering, obviously not what people lend you. Well, yeah, what people lend me, unless they specifically say you can keep it. Like Intuit sent me something one time. He goes, when you're done with this, just run over it with your car. So that one didn't go back to him. But yeah, most of the things that are lent to me go back. Some manufacturers allow you to keep stuff. Some of them ask for some things back and then allow you to keep others. IFI's done that. Hi-Fi Mint's done that. Vendors always ask for things back as far as Opus Audio and things like that. Linsel, Hi-Fi Go, Keep Hi-Fi. They allow you to keep it. All that stuff that I get to keep, I either just give away to friends, family, or keep it for reference and for being able to compare. I do have a ton of stuff still here in the house that I am trying to decide what to do with. So there you go. It's really interesting because it's free. You know, so they give it to you for your review. And they allow you to keep it. I don't really feel proper and like ethical that I should be making a profit off of stuff that I didn't purchase. So it's kind of a tough situation to be in. Excuse me about that. It's just kind of hard to make a profit off of something that I didn't purchase myself or flip unless I get approval from the vendor or the manufacturer that says, sell it if you want to, make money off of it, do whatever you want with it, then it's different. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million power cables and conditioners can help with noise. Absolutely. I know some places have cleaner power than others. So yeah, it can significantly make differences in certain areas where you live. I did a video year and a half, 2 years ago on an IFI power conditioner. That I did hear some of a difference. It was very unique experience. And it's very hard to prove. And you really probably won't believe that it can make a difference until you hear it yourself. But it definitely can make a difference. Kind of like cables. Cables don't always make a difference, but when they do, you're kind of like, whoa, I heard that one that time. But yet somebody else might not hear it. So it's kind of like, that's why it's such a hot topic, in my opinion. Let's see, JT. Yes, a Dave for the Dave. Absolutely, I gotta have my namesake, right? I've never heard it. I've heard a lot of the other Chord products at audio shows, but I've never heard the Dave. What's your take on MQA? MQA is just another one of those file formats of music. Does it sound different? Does it sound better? Does it sound worse? Possible. There are some MQA files that sound better than a DSD or FLAC or MP3, and then there are some that don't sound so good. I don't think it's a scam. I do think that what they were doing made changes. You might agree or disagree, but as far as is it something that I'm always seeking? No. I never did go out and just seek MQA files. I listen to whatever sounds good, and it doesn't matter what the file format. If an MP3 file sounds better than anything else, I'll listen to the MP3 file. If FLAC sounds better, DSD, any of that sounds better. It just depends on the gear, the song, the track, the artist, how it was mixed, how it was recorded. The most important thing, really, when it comes to music formats, is how well it was mixed and mastered. That makes the hugest difference. It's not about the bit format. It's about the mixing and the mastering process. Stuff that I've purchased. If I purchase gear and I'm not going to keep it after a while, I do sell it for the majority. Some of it, if it's not really worth reselling and someone really wants it, I might just gift it to somebody. The majority of the stuff up here, I've purchased. The only things that I didn't purchase, let's see, on this wall, Thea Audio Wraith, Hi-Fi Sundara, Allo S5X, Allo S4X, and Hi-Fi Ananda I purchased. Hi-Fi Aria Stealth I did not purchase. Everything else I purchased, including all the DACs and amps. Well, excuse me, except for the AU and X1S. Everything else I purchased with my own funds. Nearly every piece of gear that I use as a reference sound and to compare products to, I purchased as far as reference stuff on my desk. Now, IEM's a little different. Thank you, Heap, for us swinging by. Appreciate it. You're very welcome. Let's see, Title's getting rid of MQA, so it's basically dead. I wouldn't say it's basically dead. MQA is a format. The formats are going to be there, and I don't think Title's truly getting rid of it. But I could be wrong. it's not a dead format. The formats are still going to be there. The files are still going to be available. And if you don't want to listen to MQA, don't listen to it. It's your choice whether or not you want to listen to it. I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's just another format that you can purchase or listen to. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Listen to it. If not, yeah. Let's see. Apollo moon landing. I use calibrated IEMs when listening to Dan's audio reviews. Last night I listened to his P1 Max sound test. I can see why you really like the P1 Max as a very nice planar IEM. The bass surprised me. Yeah, the P1 Max has a very well controlled and defined bass for a planar. Paulo says MP3 384 is perfectly fine for evaluating IEMs, which have very little or no error since everything else will be rendered correctly. Yeah, for the most part. Totally understand that. Again, it comes down to the mixing and mastering of a track. That's the most important part. You can have some really high bit rate, high format files that just aren't mastered properly. And guess what? The flaws are going to be present in an MP3, and they're also going to be present in an MQA. They're just going to be worse in the higher bit rates. You're just going to hear it more. It's going to be more exaggerated. Let's see. If you could only purchase from one company, what would it be? One for headphones, IEMs, and one for source gear. Headphones would be Audeze. IEMs. If I could only purchase from one, I'd probably be Zen's Mangird. Maybe Dunu. I don't know. What that's tough. There's so many. So many. If I was going for monitoring though, like stage sound, I might go with soft ears. Source gear, DACs and amps, I'd go Mytek. All right, let's see here. Barco, I only listen to FLAC, Wave, or original 8-track source files played on my Realistic TR-882. Cool. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I listen to a ton of FLAC files. Most of my library is FLAC. I have, over the years, purchased some DSD varying 128, 256. I don't think I have any 512s. I know I don't have anything larger than that. And I think I have 6 MQA albums total in my library. But most of it is FLAC. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that MQA is going to continue producing, but the files are still going to be there. I mean, and they may get purchased by somebody, who knows. Barco, Bang and Olufsen, haven't really heard any of their products as far for much. A couple of things I've heard at audio shows, but I really don't recall. Probably speakers only for B&O. All right, so about 10 more minutes here, and we'll wrap things up tonight. So any questions, I'll bring it in. Good questions tonight. Anybody else got some questions here? Let's see if I missed anything here. Good questions so far. Is a hot dog a sandwich? No, it is not, unless it is prepared like a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread in between. No, it is not. Now, the real question is, do you use ketchup when you eat a hot dog? I have not reviewed any Klipsch speakers. Mytek or shit for DAX? I would go Mytek. Um, to to me, shit has a particular sound signature, especially their newer stuff, and I like it, but it's a little bit too. How do I put it? It's got a little warmish tint to it, and it's got a little bit of a more hi-fi type of sound instead of being reference neutral, natural that I'm looking for. Yes, Klipsch is American made. Klipsch is actually has a big office, just a couple of about 70 miles from here, from where I live. Jeff says, absolutely not. No ketchup, mustard only on hot dogs. And you're absolutely right. Instant grits are real grits. Got to go real grits. The the instant stuff is you can do instant oatmeal, instant oats, but you cannot do grits. For some reason, instant grits become soupy, and they just lack the texture that you get with the real thing. You have to spend the time with the grits in order to make them taste better, and that's saying something. For a New Yorker saying that. So relish on hot dogs can be okay. It depends on the style of hot dog. Everybody recommends the shit stacks for headphones on desktop. It depends on the sound signature you're going for. For me, that's it's an okay sound. It's not something I would say, oh, steer away from, don't get at all. But for me, I prefer the more neutral, natural sound, and I find that my texts present that better than shit does. Apollo Moon Landing Dave, you are an honest man. Thank you very much. Sauerkraut on hot dogs is fine. Also, it's better on like bratwurst. But being a New Yorker at heart, yeah, I don't mind sauerkraut on a hot dog. Giselle is a very good option as well for a DAC and amp. Did I spell that right? Yeah, absolutely. What sound cards do you like for PC? Actually, I really don't follow that at all. Honestly, couple of the ones that stand out for me. I mean, I'm just plugging in USB and going straight to an external DAC. I don't use my PC straight out or my laptop straight out. But Creative Labs would probably be the route I would go. Is there a big leap in quality from Z12 to Zen's top? I haven't heard the Z12, so I wouldn't know. Price range, yeah, obviously. There's a big difference. There you go. Barco, thank you for confirming. Creative Sound. Blaster cards are good unless you're doing studio production. I am not, so I will stick with the creatives. So yeah, I recently got the JCat XE USB card and could not believe how much better it made my setup. Never heard of it, but cool. They definitely can make a difference. What's my racing setup? Currently, right now, my racing setup is a PS4 Pro and a PS remote. I don't have a wheel set up currently at all. My basic one was just a little, what was it? I don't have it set up now because I don't have the room. Name slipped me. But yeah, I use remote now. I am a remote player. The name comes back to me. I'll slap it in somewhere in the comments. All right, so let's see. Need to get me on a wheel. If I had the room, I would get back on a wheel. I really did enjoy driving with wheel. It's way more immersive, a lot more responsive, for sure. But you can still do fairly good with if you spend the time learning how to change gears and do your setup stuff. You can still do fairly decent on a remote. S12 to Zen top. Okay, price difference obviously. S12 will be a lot more forthright in its presentation, especially in the mids and in the lower treble. It is a lot more forward in the mids as well. The Zen's has more bass, has a lot more control, and just has a lot of energy and a lot of like authority in the bass. Mids are more even and balanced. They're not quite as forward. Treble is more extended and not quite as sparkly in energy. It's a little bit more natural sounding in the treble. Both are very good though, but it's different presentations. S12 is a little bit more analytical leaning. Zen's is more fun sound. Is there an unusual? Hold on. Why are all hot dog stands in New York papaya something? I don't know. Papaya King in New York offers kraut underdogs. I don't know why I don't live in New York City. I'm from New York. I grew up just outside of Buffalo, but I live in the Midwest now. I live in Indiana. Um, is there an unusual audio gadget which you like? Unusual. I can't really think of anything unusual. Something that people don't really use or stands out. Not really sure. I'd have to really think about that. That's a good question, though. Um, do I have an audiophile home theater setup? No. Uh, I have a 2.1 system, a little sound bar with a subwoofer. It is made by Clips, though, so I'm staying kind of. But yeah, no, I don't have that. Um, I'm very basic when it comes to that. And then I have, of course, Wharfdale D310s and a subwoofer here with a Vidar, Ship Vidar at the desk, but I don't have any audiophile setup. All right, so let's start wrapping things up here. Thank you for everybody that swung by. Greatly appreciate it. I do appreciate the gifts that were donated, and it's much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, check out the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can support the channel, Patreon, YouTube memberships, all that kind of stuff. You can give one-time gifts also if you really feel like it. PayPal, Venmo, all that kind of stuff. If you live in the United States and you would like to lend gear, shoot me an email. We can discuss it if you have anything that you want to send over to be reviewed. And I'm always open to do that as well. And if you have any other questions that have come to mind and you are curious about, drop them down in the comments and I'll try to get to them when they come up. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscription button. And then if you are subscribed, hit the notification bell and give a thumbs up. And you know what? Thanks for everybody swinging by. Much appreciated. It's always fun doing a live stream. We'll do one sometime soon. Next week, we will review the MyTech Liberty THX AAA HBA headphone amplifier and the Soft Ears Studio 4. I will catch you guys all next time. Thank you very much for everything. You all have a great night. If I can figure out how to get out.